Thank you, Gary. And now, with his lightning talk, Dr. Mohamed Nadder Handy. Mohamed.
All right, so good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for staying that late again. So my name is Mohamed Nadder. I work for CommScope, and we are a global telecommunications infrastructure manufacturer. We actually provide all equipment that goes to cell sites except the radio. And today I've been requested to present in under 7 minutes why responsible practices are important to our industry, mobile communications, and what CommScope is doing about it. So we all know that global warming has been related to carbon-related gases like carbon dioxide, methane. But what we need to understand is that similar to the water evaporation, rain cycle, carbon also has its own natural cycle. And that includes carbon natural sources and natural drains. So the natural drains are like vegetations doing photosynthesis, or oceans absorption, or land sediments. However, after the Industrial Revolution, we have increased a lot the carbon intake to the atmosphere, and also we have cut down a lot of the drains that is absorbing, or the sinks that is absorbing the carbon from the atmosphere. And that has resulted in a big imbalance in the carbon presence in the atmosphere that is not being absorbed. So there are two definitions that I want to make them more aware to all of us, because they are a bit of confusing. The first one on the right is called carbon neutral. And with carbon neutral activities, companies tend to invest in improving the current sinks. So like buying stakes in, or like donating money to plant more forests and so on, but they are not really cutting down on the carbon emission. Whereas the other one on the left, the net zero, is actually implying cutting down of our carbon emissions in our manufacturing process and producing our services. And that is based on what we call science-based targets. So the percentage of reduction in carbon emission is actually calculated as per how much the global warming in temperature has to reach. And the Paris Agreement in 2015, the world has reached an agreement that we need to cut down on our carbon emissions to limit our global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. We are currently at 1.2 degrees, by the way. And you can see on the slide here how different telcos in our region are committed to these two terminologies I told you about, the carbon neutral and the net zero. But the race to net zero target is actually very difficult, because it not only that includes the carbon emissions from the telco himself, but it also includes the carbon emissions from the equipment that he's buying from his suppliers to provide the services. So that's what we call Scope 3. And being CommScope a big provider for telcos infrastructure equipment, we take that very seriously to cut down on our emissions as well. Now let's talk more about our telco industry. So the mobile economy is huge, it's gigantic. We actually contribute to around $5 trillion to the global GDP, and we employ more than 16 million people and generate around $1 trillion of revenue. So it's a huge industry. And if we look on our industry, how it fits into the United Nations sustainability goals. So the United Nations 17 sustainability goals are meant to improve people's lives and protect the environment to both coexist in harmony. So we fit more into the goal number 9, and specifically goal 9C, which is meant to provide ICT to the general public. But what I want to say is that we should be proud of the industry we are working in, because we are not only providing telecommunication services in terms of voice or data, but we are actually changing people's lives. You see, by providing the services we do, we're giving the people the means to search for better jobs, we give the people the means to have remote education, and we give the people the chance to come up with new businesses, fintech and others. So we are actually helping the community to combat poverty, combat hunger, and end up with better education for the greater benefit of everyone. So we do change people's lives. And talking more about that, so the industry is taking what we call the circular economy approach to helping protecting the environment more and more. And the circular economy includes looking into all the aspects of the products we use in our networks, from selection of material, to the production process, to the transportation, ending by the recycling of the end life of the product that we have. And the amount of interest that we have is extending beyond only the profit. So traditionally, the classical companies in the capitalist world only had the intention to improve on profitability. But today, nowadays, companies are extending that into what we call the triple P's model. It's a profit, but also there is a people, and also there is a planet. So as responsible companies, we need to extend our focus to cover all these three domains. And we call it do good, do well by doing good. That means do well financially, but also do what you have to do for the environment and do what you have to do for the society that you are living in. And CommScope has taken tremendous steps towards achieving that goal. So I will show you some examples that we have made. So for example, here on this slide, you can see what we call the sustainability value score. And this is a new indicator that we have been adding to our data sheets recently in terms of communicating how our products are environmentally friendly. And this score is actually based on 4 metrics that are averaged to produce a value from 1 to 10. The first metric is about the materials that we are selecting. So, for example, here we are seeing an initiative to change the cover of the antenna, the radome, to a more recyclable product, a more environmentally friendly system. On the right, you see simple things to improve the transportation. For example, by changing the dimensions of the packaging of our products, we can fit more boxes into the same container. So that's what we call, doing well by doing good. The third KPI is about improving the RF path losses. So there are always signal lost in the equipment. So we tend to design equipment that transmits more power than as possible without having any leakage in the path. And also on the right, you see initiative to improve the radiation patterns from the antenna so that they don't spill around and interfere other sites, and also lose more of the power in areas that will not be reached. This is a nice initiative that I'm showing you here with a project we are doing with an operator in Italy who is currently swapping a big number of antennas in the network to modernize the equipment they have. So we're actually engaged in recovering these antennas and requalifying them by retesting and recertifying so that they can be deployed in other areas. Again, another example of doing well by doing good. And however, the mobile operators also have a role. So if you consider 5G equipment, we usually deploy the massive MIMO solutions, which are capable of steering the beam vertically and horizontally. This is very suitable to dense areas, but as we move out of these areas into the less congested suburbs, looking into smaller configurations that can preserve on the power, like the 88R, can help us improve on the power consumption by more than 50%. So again, doing well by doing good. And in CommScope, we are taking the social responsibility as well very seriously, and that is very well governed, as you can see on this chart, with different initiatives that we are looking for. And as a consequence of that, CommScope has been recognized in several occasions by numerous awards like listed on this screen. So that brings me to the last slide as a conclusion. I said that mobile communication is a huge, gigantic industry, around $1 trillion in revenue. Responsible leadership practices is crucial to cover the triple P's we discussed: the people, the planet, as well as the profitability. And CommScope stands very much committed to these directives. And that's all from me for today. Thank you very much for your attention.